Chapter 37, Two Halves Made Whole. Tiny words dotted the map, only visible when I used Payun's eyeglass. Even then, I couldn't understand them. I recognized only one word written in halting script over the sea. Along. Along. I knew I had seen that word before. I gasped, bolted across the sand, and called under the rowboat. "Bo, wake up! Come out here, please!" He mumbled something I couldn't hear. "Please come out. I've got to show you something." The last time I'd seen that word was in Payun's cabin after we'd left Pattaya Island, after he'd seen the fortune teller. A Pramong fortune teller. Hadn't Payun told me that the Pramong had sailed to the edges of the known world, chasing fish? Bo slithered out from beneath the boat, squinting against the gray light. "It better not be more clams." "It's not. You're not going to believe this." I showed him the silk and explained to him how I had found it. I pointed to the word, along. "Please tell me you speak Pramong," I said. "Along, along." Bo's mouth moved as he thought in silence. Finally he said, "It means a sign from the gods, like an omen." I looked out to the ocean in the direction we'd sailed from. An omen. A harbinger. "Do you know what this is?" I was nearly shouting. "This is a map of our location. It shows the Harbinger Sea that we just sailed through." The map in my palm showed a chain of islands that crossed the silk in a diagonal band running northwest to southeast. The smallest island was in the north, and the islands got larger and larger as they marched south. The island at the top of the chain was just a little speck. I pointed down to it. "That little dot of black has to be the island we're sitting on." Bo tilted his head at the map, unimpressed. "What about it? So we know we're on a miserable rat pile in the middle of the sea. That doesn't help us." I ran my hands through my hair. I haven't done a good job of explaining. I took a breath and tried to slow down. The other silk map that Rian showed me, it was made by the same person. I'm sure of it. She told me that the mapper who made it was on a Pramong ship that got swept into the Harbinger Sea. I wanted to show it to Payun to prove that the Sunderlands were real, but all that time Payun had the other half, this map, hidden in his eyeglass case. Where did he get it? Probably the same place Rian got hers. The map seller could have torn it in half so she could make more money on each one. I pointed to the chart in my palm. This little map is everything. Rian's half gave us hope the Sunderlands might exist, but it didn't tell us how to find it. Payun's half completes the puzzle. Bo was sitting up straight now, his brows knit together. "Do you remember what was drawn on Rian's half of the map?" "A continent," I said breathlessly. "And now that I've got this scale, I know it was a massive one." I lay the silk on the sand and smoothed it out as best I could. I used my finger to sketch what I remembered of the other half. Bo twisted his chin, studying my sand drawing. "If you're right, that means Rian and the Prosperity went the wrong direction. She went southeast, following the larger islands, but the continent is actually to the west, just over the horizon from this miserable rat pile." "There's something I don't understand," said Bo. "If Payun spent the whole journey keeping this map a secret, why would he give it to you in the end?" I knew, but I couldn't bring myself to say the words out loud. He gave it to me because despite how badly I'd betrayed him, he still cared for me. He knew how dangerous our journey would be, and he wanted me to have a safe harbor to land in. He never could have guessed that my guilt would have kept me from finding it. I pressed the eyeglass case between my palms. If only we could use the two halves together. Without the other map, there's no way to know how close we are to the Sunderlands. Rian would never let me get a good look at it. She's probably clutching it tight in her hand as we speak. No, she's not. I looked up at Bo. What do you mean? That night of the storm, when you went to look for Rian, you left me alone in her cabin. Bo leaned back so he could reach into his trouser pocket. I thought while I was there, I might as well pick her pockets. He pulled out a wad of paper money. Folded in among the bills was a crumpled ball of white fabric. Sorry it's so mashed, he said, spreading it out on the sand. I didn't think it was important. My grin stretched the length of my face. Important? This is earth-shattering. Bo, I could kiss you. He scooted back faster than if I'd said I had Lister's fever. It's all right, I said, laughing. I'm joking. I held Payun's eyeglass over the 2 silk squares. Looking closely, it was so obvious that they were 2 halves of the same cloth. Rian's map was ripped along the right edge, Payun's along the left. Using my finger against the scale on Payun's half, I measured how far we were from the closest part of the mainland. I sat up again, twisting my fingers in my hair. I can't believe it. If this scale is accurate, the Sunderlands are only 20 miles from where we are now. A breeze blew over us, sweeping Bo's smile away and making him shiver. Might as well be 200. We'll never see it. I stood up and started pacing the sand. We could make it there. We've got a boat. Bo looked skeptically at our shelter. This thing doesn't have enough wood left in it to make a fire. It's battered, but the hull's in decent shape. We can take turns bailing it out if it takes on water. And how will we get anywhere? We haven't got oars or a sail. I'll lash some oars together with the stuff that's washed ashore. I'll do the rowing. You can sit in the stern and be grumpy. Sigh, be serious, said Bo weakly. I knew what he was thinking. I just proposed something utterly impossible. If we set out to sea in that wrecked rowboat, our chances of survival were very near 0. The slightest wave would capsize us, and without a quadrant or scope, we'd be sailing on dead reckoning, which wasn't much better than sailing with your eyes shut. And then there was the matter of the dragon drawn on Payun's map. After what I'd seen during the storm, I knew it wasn't just decoration. But we couldn't stay on this rock. I looked up at the clouds thickening to the north. Now that I knew what the Harbinger Sea was capable of, I knew we'd never survive another storm here. I knelt in front of Bo. There's not a soul on earth who could find us now. If we want to get out of here, we'll have to get ourselves out. He looked at the sea, then turned to me. All right, but only because I'd rather drown than eat any more of those bistred clams. I smiled. Come on, move over. I'm going to flip the boat.